Hello. Well now, if like me you're an older person, yes it's true, I am an older person, how do you cope with technology? Do you or people you know struggle with it? Well, a digital working party has stated that the elderly face unique challenges and vulnerabilities when it comes to information technology. Now, is that just tech speak for old people as thick as two short planks? Let's take a look. Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and has relevance, and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Now, I've got a vision in my head that app developers are all youngsters making apps for people who know and understand how to use them. And they see the elderly as irrelevant and incapable, so there's no need to cater for them. Yeah, I'm probably stereotyping them as much as I stereotype older people. But the NHS now has a digital working party that's contributing to their 10-year plan. And during a review of the NHS health apps, they've identified the technology challenges faced by older people. Now, I'm not sure why it took a working party to do this. We old ones already know what the challenges are. Now, according to the NHS, their health app offers users the ability to manage their health digitally by booking appointments, accessing medical records, and communicating with their GP. Yeah, good luck with that. According to the working party, while these tools have proven beneficial, the older generation faces unique challenges and vulnerabilities that can hinder the use of the apps and compromise digital safety. Now, I would suggest that's not unique to the NHS apps. I mean, let's face it, we can't escape technology. It's everywhere and it's affecting all of our lives, whether we like it or not. In the grand scheme of things, I don't usually have an issue with it, but it is being forced on us and in so many ways. Now, for example, it's impossible to call my insurance company and speak to someone. No number is given, certainly not on the website, but you can chat to a chatbot if you wish. Gosh, they are the worst forms of AI imaginable in my opinion. They never understand what you need or what you're asking for, and having explained the issue, the bot will reply with, I think you're asking about, and then give you a number of totally unrelated options. And then if you do manage to speak to a human, you have to repeat what the issue is all over again, presumably because they don't get to see your conversation with the chatbot. It's probably just as well, really, because I usually end up telling it to F off. But then there's banking, passport and driving licence renewals. There's now paying for the ULEZ charge or paying toll fees, and of course the dreaded online shopping. I say it's dreaded because, it's so convenient, isn't it? On the one hand, but on the other, it's destroying our high streets. And on another hand, how many hands have I got? On another hand, for many elderly folk, it takes away the need to go out, and that feeds into loneliness and isolation. Now, we use tech daily, don't we? And when it operates seamlessly in the background, it's great. But when it goes wrong, well, that's another matter. For example, last year, and I think I did a video about this. Last year, Mrs. Grey Matters and I were returning from a few days away in Italy. And when we arrived at Naples Airport, we found total chaos. There was a global IT outage. Now, you might have been caught up in this too, wherever you were. For us, all flights were cancelled. We couldn't get anything to eat or drink because all the card machines were down. We couldn't get any cash either because the ATMs were down. Both of our phones were low on battery, but all the charging ports in the airport were down. Now, according to the Ryanair app, which was working on my phone, the first available flight back home was in 4 days' time. We couldn't get hold of them. Their website had crashed under the weight of the inquiries. Their phone lines weren't being answered, and there was no one we could find at the airport. So to cut a long story short, we were unable to liaise with Ryanair to organise alternative flights with another airline, which you need to do to liaise with them if you want to get any sort of compensation. So we simply had to go it alone. There were no direct flights to the UK with any airline, and the prices were being hiked literally by the second. By the time we managed to get an indirect flight home for the next day, the cost had risen to more than £330 each. The profiteering by those airlines who were taking advantage of stranded passengers was insane. But like so many others, we had no choice. We had commitments waiting back home for us. So all that IT, that technology, is brilliant when it works. But when it stopped, globally, the place just fell into chaos. Now, I'm pretty tech savvy, I like to think, and not much about the internet, smartphones and apps phases me. But when it comes to the NHS apps, I know people who really struggle with navigating them. And I'm not surprised. I don't think they are particularly easy. Nothing about them to me is intuitive. And, many of our generation lack the familiarity and the confidence required to navigate the health apps, or many other apps, I would suggest. Now, the Digital Working Party has identified that this includes difficulty with downloading and installing apps, understanding medical terminology, and navigating complex user interfaces. So, is this the NHS admitting that their apps are complex and full of medical jargon? Many of us have cognitive and physical impairments, declining vision or reduced motor skills. Memory impairments can make remembering login credentials particularly difficult. And of course, there are those who do not have access to smartphones, tablets or reliable internet connections. And that doesn't help if your local surgery refers you to use apps for some task or other. Another issue has been identified as lack of support. Without technical support from family members or friends, caregivers or health professionals, many users can actually start to feel isolated, and that makes them susceptible to online phishing and scams. It's nice to have someone to talk to, isn't it, when you're lonely, even if they're scamming you. Now, Health Secretary Wes Streeting has said that technology can be a great leveller. He says the ambition of the 10-year plan is nothing less than to provide NHS patients with the same ease and convenience that's afforded to private patients. Well, I would disagree with that. Most private patients can simply make a phone call or two, something that is denied to NHS patients, and they can get things sorted much quicker. And he also said that it can empower patients with choice and control. Well, not if you struggle with technology, it can't. Now, thankfully, there is now a Digital Poverty Alliance. And the CEO of that is Elizabeth Anderson, and she told delegates at a recent event that a lot of people have a fear of tech. Well, I think we know that already. That doesn't necessarily apply just to older people. The Digital Poverty Alliance has a charter which the National Pensioners Convention has already signed up to. I'm really pleased to hear about that. The charter wants to encourage people to become digital champions to enable our generation and anyone else who shies away from technology to have a go. My father-in-law used to have a go frequently because he could never retain what he learned. Now, I employ all efforts to help us navigate this strange new world, and it's great that the National Pensioners Convention is involved, but there are thousands of people out there struggling, particularly in this digital age, where everything seems to be done online and where people are having tech forced on them, whether they want it or not. So initiatives like this will certainly help them, but will, I suspect, arrive too late for many. I mean, how do you roll it out? How many champions will be needed to teach this technology? How will they reach those who need it most? There are 10 million pensioners out there. Not all do lally when it comes to technology, but how will they identify those who struggle and use smart tech or access and use the NHS apps? It does make you wonder. I mean, how do you cope with technology? Probably not too badly, considering you're here watching YouTube and watching this video. But what about older relatives, parents, dementia sufferers? Do let me know how they cope. Now, I'm fully supportive, though a little cautious of this initiative. I've worked on many such projects in the past where the principle is highly laudable, but the execution is far more complicated, requiring often, major funding and, in this case, speed, especially if it's going to benefit the pensioners who are around today. So I think the starting point should be with the app developers themselves. They are, as I've already suggested, no doubt all very young by our standards, with little experience of the real world perhaps, and having designed much of the technology involved, don't see the issues. Well, I reckon they need to strip those apps right back, simplify them and ensure that the users can submit information and get the information they need with just 3 clicks. Perhaps they should invite a group of elderly people along of all relevant ages and abilities to help them to test them out. I'd love to be a fly on that particular wall. Tell you what, I'd also love to see how the likes of Corporal Jones or Victor Meldrew would cope. I mean, Meldrew even had a problem using the house phone.
4291.
Well, nothing more to say really, except a reminder to let me have your comments on this issue of tech and older people. I'd love to know your experiences with technology and with using NHS apps. Do you think they're intuitive and easy to use and understand? Let us know. So that's it for this edition. If you enjoy our content, please like, share and subscribe. That's very important. And in the meantime, thank you for joining us here on Grey Matters. And until the next time, it's bye for now. Now, where did I leave my laptop? I'm not even sure I remember how to turn it on.